Greetings, people from all over the world, especially China. I read on the internet that China has 200 to 250,000 people who play the accordion. That's a lot. They could conquer another country simply by taking one song and all of them playing it very poorly. And the country under attack would say, "Oh, please stop playing that horrible song. We surrender." Boom, you're done. Okay, so today's topic is playing chords using only the counterbass row and only the bass row. Okay, only the counterbass row and only the bass row. I was going to talk about this in previous videos, but I didn't know where to stick it in. So I'll just do this separate video and we'll talk about that. Now, many times I've shown you the handy chord chart that you can get on the internet, and that shows you what tones are called for when you press each respective button. And so what we see with the 120 bass Stradella setup, we see that you have 6 ranks of buttons. In other words, the ranks go this way. You have 6 ranks, and you have 20 files. And the file goes this way. See? You have 6 ranks and 20 files. And that's clearly shown on your chart, and you can clearly see it over here. All right? Now, if you look at one particular file, if you single out one particular file, and, in case you haven't seen my previous videos, you'll find that the top button would be the counterbass button. Then there's the bass button below that. Then the major chord button, minor chord button, dominant 7th chord button, and the diminished 7th chord button. Now, if you've watched the previous videos, you'll see that I went over some of the 7th buttons specifically because there's some unusual features about them, and also because when I play, I try to use all 5 fingers. So I have to mention this in that light. I have to mention this. When you play as an example, when you play the C7 button on the accordion, over here, that's this button, you get these tones. C, E, B flat. The G is omitted. It's not sounded when you play that 7th button over here, that dominant 7th button. It's omitted. Likewise, when you play the C diminished 7th chord button, the G flat, the G flat tone is omitted. You hear this? Oops, excuse me. You'll hear that over here with the G diminished 7th chord button. The 5th is omitted, and that's a good thing. And now when you play the C minor 7th chord, if you omit the 5th, the G, then you'll hear this. And then if you play the what we call suspended chord, tradition calls it the suspended chord. Sorry, I can't talk today. The suspended chord would be called the C dominant 7 with the suspended 4th tone. And in that chord, you would have your C, your root or tonic, F, and B flat. But the G is omitted. So you'd have this. And I talked about that in a previous video. And ordinarily, not always, it tends to resolve to, you see the arrow, it tends to resolve to the C dominant 7 with the 5th omitted. That'd be this. Now on the left hand, and we're not going to do it yet, it would be this. C, F, B flat, C, E, B flat. The suspension chord, that's what they call it. Resolving to the dominant 7. With the 5th omitted. Now we'll get back to that later. So let's do this first. I think this is the easiest way to introduce this way of playing chords with only the counterbass row and the bass row. Now, in my previous video, I talked about the system I invented called the Stradella reed recognition system. And I mentioned that because let's say we take this register. Now, on my inexpensive accordion, it's not marked. But if it were marked, it would show that this is the alto tenor register. This one here, I use it all the time. All right. Now, if we play a C major chord, that's a C, E, and G, using only the bass and counterbass buttons, you'd have C, E, G. Okay, C, E, G. Then you would have, in the alto reed set, you'd have the C4, E4, and G4 tones would be sounding. And in the tenor reed set, you'd have the C3, E3, and G3 sounding. Now, we talked about that in previous videos, but I'm showing you this now because it relates to playing chords with only the bass and counterbass rows. So, we know that these tones will be sounding because in previous videos, we talked about the reed sets. Now, these are common. This is not the special, unusual, eccentric reed sets. These are kind of normal, kind of regular. And we look in the alto reed set to see what tones would be sounded for that chord, and we looked at the tenor reed set to see what tones would be sounded. We went over that many times. So that should be fairly clear. Now, if we select this register, which isn't marked, it's an inexpensive accordion, but if it were marked, it would show that it's the alto, contralto, tenor, bass reed set. Now, when you go to play that C major chord again, which is the C, E, and G, right? Oh, you get a whole lot more tones. You see, in the alto reed set, these would sound. The contralto, these would sound. In the tenor, these would sound. And in the bass reed set, these would sound. So you get a whole lot more. But you see here, this little connector line, here, here, and here. Now, if you go back to my previous videos, if you review this, you'll see that in the alto reed set, one C4 reed is sounding, and in the contralto reed set, another C4 reed is sounding. And here you have alto E4 reed is sounding, and the contralto E4 is sounding. And here the G3 in the contralto reed set and the G3 in the tenor reed set sounding. So these tones here, the C4, E4, and G3, will have a little edge. They'll have a little more prominence than the other tones might have. That's if you have good hearing. And since these two reed sets produce the same tone, though they're different reeds, we call them intra-group duplicates. And if you go back and review the previous videos, my videos on the Stradella reed recognition system, you will see this clearly. You will see why these tones sound or why they sound and you can't tell they're sounding. All right, so we reviewed that, and that brings us to actually playing chords with the left hand, but using only the counterbass row and the bass row. So you say, let's start with that C major, that real simple chord. And to play a major chord that way, there's two different ways that you can look at. Now, I'm not showing you all the ways. I'm only showing you the quick, simple, easy ones. Because this is an introduction to this. And I don't think anybody else on the internet talks about playing chords using only those two rows. I could be wrong, but here we go. So you can play the major with your C, C, E, and G in this position. This is the C that's usually in the middle of your Stradella system. And in my accordion, it's indented, which I like. But in some accordions, you'll have a little stone on there. I put stones on my E and my A flat when I first got this. I had to do some repairs. But I like it better that way because my C then is the only one that's indented. And then I know these are the extremes. So it's easier for my mind that way. But anyway, so then you have this position, which I just showed. But there's another one. And there's this position here. Now to play the major C major chord, you got to go up higher. All right? And then your C will be up here. That's higher up towards your head on the accordion. E, G, instead of down here. So there's the two positions for the major chord. Then there's two positions for the minor chord. You can see that there. We'll play an A minor. That's your C, A, or actually you would say first A, C, E. You would pronounce it that way. That's the minor position. Then the other minor position, which is handy, is, let's say we're going to play a C minor, all right? So we go to our C, E flat, G, all right, so that's your two major positions, your two minor. Then you have your dominant seventh position, and you can see the fifth is omitted. It's not there. Not in this case. All right, so there's your seventh. Let's do that one. C, B flat. Then there's another position to play the C dominant 7, and that's with this configuration. You can stop your video if you want to write this stuff down. So to do that one, then you're going to be higher up, higher toward the top of the accordion. All right, you're going to have your Now I listed as an A flat there. That's the same as a B flat. That's called enharmonic. It's written differently, but it sounds the same. So that would be up here. Here, C, E, B flat. That's the second dominant 7 position for this left hand. A little more difficult. And here's that first one. Exact same sound, just using different buttons. Okay? Then you have your diminished 7th chord. All right. And as you can see, the 5th is not there. It's omitted. Remember, I showed you this, how we generally think of these chords for the accordion. Because of the way the buttons are put together, because of the way the system's put together, we generally omit the 5th. Not always, but a lot of times we omit the 5th. So that's C diminished, C diminished 7th would be your C, A, E flat. And that would be this. Oh no, excuse me. Yeah, that's right. Now, so you don't get confused, I want to tell you, I just said C, E flat, and A. I think I said that. But actually, It's really C, E flat, and B double flat. But we just call that A because it's an A button. And that's how you play that chord without going crazy, without breaking your hand. Right? Now we get into some other sweet chords. We get into some sweetness here. Here's two ways to play the minor 7th chord. This way and this way. Alright? The first way would be with your traditional C in the middle. And your G, E flat, B flat. So you have your C. Alright? And we're doing this one here. That would be this. That's one of the positions. Then there's another one. That's this one here. So for that one, you have to go down a little bit lower on the accordion. For this one here, you go down here to the B flat, E flat, C, and G. Whoops. Sorry. This is a hard one to do. But there it is. It's hard to do. You got to learn how to squish your fingers together. Anyway, that's the tough one there. Apologize for that sloppy playing, but that's par for my course. Then you have that suspended dominant 7th. In other words, that's a dominant 7 with the suspended 4th tone. That's the 4th tone. And I already showed you many times and in previous videos how that works. You start out with your C, your suspended 4th tone, and your B flat with the omission of the G. And you want to resolve to the C, the E, and the B flat. And again, the G is not there. And that's very easy. And it makes a real nice sound. It's this. The suspension, the dominant 7. That has a lot of good sweetness, and when I do a song in the future, when I do my Bellingham Forest song, I'll show you how that works beautifully. So that's, oh, then there's one more. Yeah, there's one more, the major 7 chord. And there's no 5th. The 5th is gone. I mean, you can stick it in, but I don't. I don't bother with it. And that's C, E, B. That would be this on this side. Okay, I'm taking long, so let me hurry up here. I hope you got that. I hope you kind of saw what was happening. So let's in a kind of a hurry here. Let's do the that goofy little song called Heart and Soul. A lot of young children, when they learn piano, right in the beginning, they like to play this because it's very easy. It's C major, A minor, D minor, G7. Now see, we're only using the counter bass and the bass rows here. Ready? I apologize. It's hard to hold this close to the camera so you can see better and play at the same time because, you know, as you know from previous videos, I'm a crappy accordion player, so just bear with me. It's the concept and the topic that we're referring to that's really important. Counterbass, bass row only for practice purposes, or if you want to play with multiple accordions, you could play only the bass rows, the counterbass and bass rows, and somebody else could play the melody with the regular chords, and you might be able to get a real nice sweet sound, especially if you're playing like a march song or a powerful Celtic song. You might be able to do that. Now here's another song where you can see how the chords are used just quickly. See, it's called Over the Rainbow. Whoops, excuse me. Excuse me. Again, it's hard for me to keep this accordion here like this. Let me try it again. C, A flat, E minor, G7, F major, G major, C major, C dominant 7, F major, F minor, D minor, G7. Okay, that was chords with using only the counterbass and bass row. And then quickly there's the, in the key of G, that would be the very simple version of Amazing Grace, which I know you're sick of hearing that because of my other videos. A G major. I go from G major to G major 7. C, G, E minor, A minor, D7, G, D7, C, G, E minor, A minor, D minor, excuse me, D7. It's hard to do and talk at the same time. Let me try it again. Only counterbass and bass. Okay, I apologize for running long, but that is the video for making chords with the counterbass and bass row only. And I mentioned this because I didn't know where to stick it in the other videos. And I'm the guy who talks about stuff that nobody else talks about. And I wanted to throw this in because this goes with all the other systems that I developed. And it's part of it. And I didn't want to exclude it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient. And hope to see you again. Good night.